Hello, Zach.
Good morning, Justin. How are you?
Feeling lovely. How are you today?
I'm doing good. I'm doing really good. I'm excited about today's conversation. We saw this came out, I guess, last week. An analyst, Justin. Neither of us, to be very fair, are analysts, so we should watch what we're saying here. An analyst from Merrill Lynch says that Tesla is going to lose all of their market share in the next few years. I thought we'd dive into that, Justin, because it's kind of hard for me to imagine that Tesla's just going to kind of fall by the wayside, isn't it?
Yeah, it's an apocalyptic scenario, and I don't think it's. Uh, I don't know. It's kind of strange that an analyst from Bank of America Merrill Lynch is able to draw such drastic conclusions, with without seemingly taking into account how the past 5 years have gone for Tesla. Which keep in mind. Okay, so let's get right into the details.
Yeah, yeah.
An analyst from Bank of America Merrill Lynch says that based on the numbers they've looked at, Tesla's EV market share is going to drop from around 70 to 75%, where it is today, to less than 15% in just a few years by 2025.
Yes.
This is
And we
according to
should
the Car Wars study, which is
I was
aptly
about to
named
say.
Car
Yes,
Wars.
exactly.
I did not I did not put that title there. That is what they named it. Bank of America, trillions of dollars in assets. They named it Car Wars. So looking at the details, the analyst cites General Motors and Ford's electrification push as reasoning for why John Murphy, why he thinks that Tesla is going to tank. This is a little bit wild. I've never seen anyone forecast such a drastic market share, just the bottom falling out. It's crazy.
But
What do you think, Zach?
Justin, let's hit on it. So Mr. Murphy thinks that 245 new electric vehicle models are going to come to market in the next 4 years. 61 new models per year. Okay, the average output over the past 2 decades has been closer to 30 new models per year. And yes, Igor, we understand that this is simply speculation. However, it makes for a damn good video title. And quite frankly,
It
a lot
worked.
of what people are thinking about is the push to EV and how rapid it's going to be. So we're expecting, amidst all the supply chain challenges that we're seeing right now, we're expecting a 100% increase or 50% increase in the amount of vehicles that are new models that are going to be produced. If that were to come to fruition, then Mr. Murphy thinks General Motors, Honda, and other European brands, in addition to Stellantis and Ford, are going to take market share away from Tesla. Ultimately, you get to a place where market share looks something more like 12.2%. This is actually, excuse me, this is showing the 2021 market share of these different brands, excluding Tesla here. When you start to look at what Tesla does, however, where is it? Where is it? Yeah. John Murphy predicts that Tesla's EV market share will drop from over 70% today to just 11% in 2025. Ford, GM, Hyundai, and Kia are essentially the challengers in this car wars battle that he says are going to take that market share. It's hard for me to believe it, Justin, especially when we just got Q2 sales numbers from all the different manufacturers with the exception of Mercedes-Benz. Did we see, you updated the numbers this morning? I'll pull it up on and just, did you see a huge increase from Ford, from Kia, from Hyundai, from all the players saying, hey, we got Tesla right where we want them?
Not huge, but I was impressed by Ford's numbers. But real quick, I want to touch on something that we've got Brandon in the chat saying best thing for consumers is greater competition and a more balanced market. I agree, but let's get a dose of reality to see just why these speculations, which these speculations have a lot of money behind them, because keep in mind, Bank of America, why they're so far-fetched. How many Honda EVs are sold in the United States right now, purely electric vehicles? Zero. Zero. Not one. How many Stellantis EVs are sold in the US? Pure electric vehicles. Zero. Um, who else is the other big one that's still lacking?
Toyota, but they have
Ah,
their BZ4X now.
yeah, that's actually who I was going for. So they've sold like 1,000.
Yep.
But yeah, so we need to keep in mind here that they're forecasting either Tesla's going to fail in a few years or EV sales overall are going to skyrocket so quickly that Tesla's market share is just going to be insignificant compared to where it is now. However, they're assuming that Ford, GM, Stellantis, and the others are going to be able to sell 100,000 EVs per quarter, when right now we're seeing these same automakers sell anywhere from 0 to 10,000 EVs per quarter. Let's take a look at the latest market share numbers, because we've got this great resource that is updated regularly over on the Join YAA page. Some new numbers came in just this morning, and right now I guess all we're really missing are the numbers from Mercedes-Benz, Volvo Polestar. That's really it.
Did you get the numbers from Rivian? I know they just
Yes.
came out maybe an hour ago. Great, you're on it.
Yes, I updated that. Now, what we're seeing is Tesla continuing to dominate, but their market share in Q2 of 2022 has ticked down just a little bit. Let me run these numbers real quick and see what the market share stands as of right now. But Zach, did you see any surprises in these numbers?
Wow. I mean, this is my first time. I know
Yeah.
you just updated this, so
Fresh
let's look at it
update. Fresh
together.
update.
So Tesla deliveries in Q2 were 118,700, down from 129,743 in Q1 of 2022. Q2 for Ford, 15,527 electric vehicles delivered. Q1 was 6,734. Ford also, just more broadly, their sales were not down as much. Actually, they were up 1.2% or 1.3% as compared to their peers, who are all down last quarter. General Motors deliveries of electric vehicles up to 7,217 in Q2, up from 457 in Q1 of 2022. Nissan, 3,251, down from 4,371. VW Group up to nearly 9,000 from about 8,000. Here we go. Hyundai Kia. This is what I was interested to see. Deliveries of Hyundai Kia electric vehicles down about 800 units, 900 units in the prior quarter. BMW deliveries up just a touch. Waiting on Volvo Polestar, like you mentioned. Rivian deliveries up considerably, about 4x, Justin. That's kind of impressive, honestly.
Yeah, they're still on track for what they say is they're still on track for a target of 25,000 vehicles produced by the end of this year. That's what Rivian says. And with these latest Q2 numbers, they reiterated that they believe that goal is attainable. So I just ran some quick numbers, and it looks like if all holds true, Tesla's EV market share in the United States, keep in mind, these are United States sales numbers. So yeah, Tesla sold more than 118,000 vehicles, but all of these numbers are apples to apples comparison of US EV sales market share. It would be looking at a drop from 74.8% to 68%. In the first quarter of this year, Tesla did have 74.8% market share. So do you think that drop is significant, Zach? I would say not, considering the performance of the others.
Yeah, the bigger storylines here for me are quarter over quarter, there were only 1,000 more electric vehicles sold. So to me, that's a bit of a storyline.
Yeah.
And then Rivian's sales actually increasing, or I should say deliveries, and Ford's deliveries hitting an all-time high. Those to me are the three storylines. Total EV sales, very, very, very moderate increase quarter over quarter. Rivian's impressive. Ford's impressive.
And the Chevy Bolt is back. That's why General Motors has 7,000 EV sales in the second quarter. It's just because the Bolt is back.
It is. Now, obviously, year over year for the quarter, a year ago, there were only 118,000 electric vehicles delivered in the quarter compared to 174,000. We'll round it up 175,000. So obviously, there's still a considerable amount of growth in the electric vehicle market. But it's really impressive. This Ford number is kind of like the feeling I had when we saw the Hyundai Kia numbers from last quarter, Justin. It makes me think that Hyundai Kia and Ford, they're the two that are going to be gunning for Tesla's market share, which, to give some credit to John Murphy from Bank of America, okay, fine, learning fast, you're right, 68% is still dominating the market. But to give some credit to John Murphy from Bank of America, from Merrill Lynch, maybe he's onto something. Maybe Hyundai, Kia, and Ford can actually put some pressure on them.
Yeah, and I think it's going to come down to the affordability question. If Ford, General Motors, Stellantis, Honda, Toyota, etc., if they're all able to bring affordable electric options into the market at a time where future gas prices may stay over $4 a gallon nationwide, then we could be seeing some kind of big paradigm shift in the market. But I do want to point out Ford's numbers. So they did sell, this was their first quarter of F-150 Lightning sales. They did sell about 2,000 F-150 Lightnings. They sold every one that they could make and delivered to dealerships. However, the main reason for Ford's skyrocketing EV sales is still the popularity of the Mustang Mach-E. They sold over 10,000 Mustang Mach-E's in the second quarter. That's a record for the Mustang Mach-E, I believe.
Yep. It
Previously, I
has to
think the
be.
record was 7,000. So,
Yep.
and that was in the fourth quarter of last year. Yep. Ford is pulling some impressive numbers, but once again, we know that what's behind these numbers, Zach, and it's that it all comes down to how many cars can they make. Are they able to procure enough semiconductor chips? EVs require more chips than combustion vehicles. Battery shortages aren't such a big deal yet, but right now it's really the chips and the greater supply chain constraints that we've been seeing.
What do you make of this from Happy Hippo? If EV prices keep increasing, would the government jump in to help people that can't afford it with incentives to help offset some of these prices? And for context here, the latest data we have from Cox Automotive from May, the average transaction price for an electric vehicle was north of $64,000. We should be getting the June numbers from Automotive News, from Cox Automotive, probably in the next 1 to 2 weeks. And so we should have an update on what the average transaction price was for an electric vehicle. We also have a request out to our friends at Black Book for what the average transaction price is on the used car market for electric vehicles. But Justin, there's got to be eventually some government subsidies and incentives. You just posted on the YA Electric Instagram the other day. Toyota's out of incentives for their electric vehicles. They hit the 200,000 vehicle cap. What do you think of this? Do you think the government steps in sooner rather than later to help offset some of these high prices?
I think it's low on the government's priority list right now, so I don't think we're going to see anything, honestly, for the next 3-4 months at least. However, there is debate going on right now. If we increase incentives, is it just going to keep EV prices high? If incentives continue to phase out as they have been recently phased out for Toyota, by the way, let me say, Toyota's phase out period is beginning, so they've got 1 year left of these credits. If you're looking to buy a BZ4X for some reason, then go out and do it in the next 12 months. But if the credits continue to phase out, would automakers lower prices correspondingly? Well, that's not what we've seen. Tesla's credits have been gone for a few years now, and Tesla prices have skyrocketed. General Motors, we've seen the mess that they've been going through with the Chevy Bolt recall and all that. There's no clear answer. It's up for debate. I know that some of the politicians whose vote would be pivotal and critical for passing a revision to the tax credit are pretty firmly against it. So I would not count on it happening in 2022, not this year.
Now, one other piece that was coming out of the Car Wars study that I want to pull up on the screen just pertains to powertrains, regardless of who's producing them. I just want to pull it up and we can all talk about this for a moment. Model years 2023 to 2026. We're looking at an even split between internal combustion engine options, electric options, so 40% each, and 20% hybrid options on the market. What do you make of this, Justin? Do you think that this is an accurate depiction of where we end up? Again, 40% electric vehicle options on the market for new cars between 2023 and 2026, 40% internal combustion engine, 20% hybrid.
So let's make sure we understand what this graph is showing us. It's showing us the new models brought to market. So just like Toyota has just launched the BZ4X, they're saying that 40% of new models introduced in that period will be electric. And if that's what we're looking at, I agree entirely. I still think that by 2026, US EV market share is going to still be below 20%, maybe getting closer to 20%, but I'm pretty pessimistic when it comes to that front because of the cost and lack of charging infrastructure. But for new models, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if it's actually higher than 40%. By 2026, let's just think about where we're going to be at with all of these billions of dollars in R&D investments. Research and development is ongoing right now at an unprecedented pace. We're talking over $500 billion. Well, the fruits of those research projects and developmental processes are going to be coming to light by around 2026. So I wouldn't be surprised if 60% of all new models brought to market by manufacturers would be electric in just 4 years' time.
Something tells me the hybrid segment needs to get a little bit bigger on this chart. I feel like you're going to see more and more of a push towards hybrid powertrains, but I could be very, very wrong. It's interesting though to think that only 4 out of 10 new vehicles that are being sold would be internal combustion engine. When right now, Justin, what's the number? What's the how of all vehicles sold last quarter? I mean, what percentage were electric vehicles? Like, I don't know the number off the top of my head.
5.2%.
So we're talking about going from 5.2% to 40%. I mean, that seems like a big ask, even with all the investments there. It's fascinating, though, to see what some of the people much smarter than us and get paid way more money than us come up with.
Yeah, and I know we are not Europe, and we're coming right off the heels of Independence Day. So I'm not saying we are Europe, but in Europe, they saw EV market share increase from about 20% to, in some countries, 60 to 80% in the course of about 5 years over the past decade, between about 2017 and 2022. So I think it's possible, but I don't think it's going to be replicated here in the United States. We're a much larger country. Charging infrastructure is going to be much more difficult to build out. And I think we're going to be looking at a decade rather than just a few years, just being realistic.
Let's talk a little bit about infrastructure, and it's fascinating to read Happy Hippo's comment here. It is not just the EV, it's the infrastructure. That is the reason I am going with Tesla. Their supercharger network is all over and they work. Any recent experiences for you, Justin, at Electrify America? And what are your thoughts about the whole, Tesla supercharger network versus the other options?
Tesla supercharger network is definitely superior. I'll be honest, if Tesla still qualified for the tax credit and they had not raised their prices so much, I would have still gone for a Tesla Model Y, even though I think the Hyundai Ioniq 5 looks better. I think it's built better, but it's that supercharger network that matters a lot to people. Now, Tesla gives you the option of, it's not even an option, it's just what you get. It's plug and charge. Whenever you need a charge, you just pull up, plug in the charger to the car, and forget about it. Electrify America, you've still got to deal with apps that may or may not work. You got to make sure you have a mobile data connection. You got to have service. You got to make sure that the charging stalls themselves are actually functional. I have encountered quite a few that were just not working, and it was embarrassing because nobody wants to buy like a $56,000 car and then pull up to a charging station and have to deal with very amateur problems that like I bet you could have figured out the problems and how to fix them, Zach. Yeah, it's tough out there, and I think that those of us who use Electrify America, which Ioniq 5 drivers, that's what we mostly use. I'm actually glad that not everyone is buying an electric vehicle in 2022 because the charging infrastructure cannot take it. We would have an EV caused recession because nobody would travel. Nobody would travel if we were all using Electrify America's network.
I'm trying to think. I think someone tweeted it at me. I'm going to see if I can pull it up quickly. There were like incredible lines, absolutely incredible lines in Southern California. Oh, yeah, I found it right here. Let me share my screen. So sure, Tesla has the best infrastructure, but here was the tweet. Tesla charging line in California, 30 to 60 minutes per charge. Yeah, here you go.
More like 20 minutes per charge, but still, it's still a ridiculous line.
Wow, this really is a
yeah, I've seen these videos. That is true, but right now that's happening in areas with high EV adoption, which is basically Tesla, California, maybe the I-95 corridor on the East Coast, but that's real. It's something to keep on our radars because if everyone goes electric in just a few years' time, I don't think that's going to happen. We would be facing that problem nationwide. And now, do you believe me, Zach? An EV caused recession because nobody travels because of things like that.
I could see it. I understand. Let's switch gears. Let's talk a little bit. Bloomberg just today put out a really, really, really interesting piece. Bloomberg Greens, electric car ratings. They are trying, Justin, over at Bloomberg to try and demystify, take some of the confusion out of the electric vehicle market and help folks understand their options. Before we dive into their ratings and rankings, I know you had some time to scroll through this. What were your thoughts about Bloomberg Greens rankings and model that they created?
I think their methodology is great. Now, I was a bit sad with how poorly my Ioniq 5 scored, down at like a score of 55, but the rationale makes a lot of sense. Now, we got to keep in mind that electric vehicle technologies, especially battery technologies, are going to improve over the coming years, just like combustion engine powertrains improved over the years. So what we're seeing now is how many miles can you go on a charge for a given battery pack size, kilowatt hours? For example, the Tesla Model 3, you can go over 350 miles on a charge on a battery pack that is roughly 78 kilowatt hours usable. Correct me if I'm wrong, Zach. What does it say? Uh,
Boom.
83, but I know the usable is a bit less than that. Now, if you scroll down to the Ionic 5, about halfway down.
I'm going. Got to click
Oh,
on the show all button.
show
I'm
all.
going. Oh my, there it is.
Yeah. Well, that's just a bad comparison because that's the 58 kilowatt hour battery. That's the small battery pack that you can only get in Europe. Interesting how they use that in the comparison. But
Here we go. Here we go. Here we go.
whoa, there we go. Mine scored even worse. I'm the limited all-wheel drive. Look, I have just the
Wow.
worst Ionic 5 score.
So for those of you who join us on the podcast, the green score, let's give some perspective here. The highest green rating they gave was a 74.2 to the Tesla Model 3 long range. And again, to your mentioning, Justin, the criteria that they use are how far can you drive, how big's the battery, how long does it take to charge, how much does it cost. Now, if we look at the Ionic 5 SE standard range with the 58 kilowatt battery pack, 55.2 is what it scored. The 77.4 kilowatt battery pack scored a 52.8. I guess that's because the distance, Justin,
It's not
was
very
lower.
efficient. It's not very
Yeah.
efficient. So a simple way to characterize Bloomberg's analysis is it's all based on efficiency, and I support that. Even though my own car did not perform very well in this analysis, I support this comparison. What it's showing is that there are quite a few EVs on the market, most of them made by Tesla, and there's a Lucid. Even the Chevy Bolt is on the upper part of this list. Based on their battery size, they're able to get pretty good range when compared to other EVs who have lesser efficiency. So the Chevy Bolt, we may talk a lot of trash about its very combustible history. However, it has a pretty small battery pack and gets about 259 miles on a charge. That's pretty impressive. So it's all about efficiency. If you do care about the effects of battery mining on the environment and things like this, well, if you're going to have to just accept the fact that mining for batteries is not great for the planet, at least you can get the most miles on a charge out of that battery. And that's what this looks at.
I think this is an incredible resource. I'm super excited that Bloomberg created, and I hope that we spend more time looking at it. And they've already mentioned, it might be down lower on the page, they've got other vehicles that they're, the Audi A6 e-tron, the Nissan Ariya, the Cadillac Lyriq, Fisker Ocean, Audi Q4 e-tron, and the Jeep Wrangler Magneto EV are all going to be added to this. And hopefully they maintain it really well because, Justin, as far as I know, this is the only comparison shopping tool for electric vehicles out there. Again, you can see the charging speed right here. The Chevy Bolt does 3.7 miles per minute of charge compared to the Lucid Air that does 20.1. Okay, I want the Lucid. All right, well, the Lucid costs 3 times as much money, right? This is a great resource, and it also puts in perspective, let's scroll down, how stupid the Hummer is.
Yeah. The Hummer, don't
Right?
buy the Hummer. Don't buy the electric Hummer to save the planet. Just don't do that.
Exactly. Like, doesn't charge particularly fast. Has a decent range, but also has a truly humongous battery pack. So, and is very expensive. I think this is one of the best resources I've come across, and it made it understandable for me what the different options were on the market. I hope we see more resources like the heck. I hope we can produce some resources like these. It's really, really helpful.
Yeah, and if you're on the market for an EV and you're thinking about the fastest charging EVs or the longest range EVs, we've got resources for both of those comparisons on the Join YAA website. It's been kind of interesting to look at the fastest charging EVs and to look at the price points because, I mean, you've got the Lucid Air going for $110,000, $150,000 depending on trim. That charges just as fast as the Kia and Hyundai EVs that cost a third of that price. So yeah, it's just pretty interesting, and be sure to check out our resources.
What do you make of the BZ4X coming in right after your Ionic 5? So again, the Hyundai Ionic 5 scored a 55.2 for the SE standard range. The BZ4X on Bloomberg's green rating scored a 55. And just to do here, let me pull it back up on the screen.
It's
So we
all
can
about the
look at it.
efficiency, so I'm not surprised. It's the efficiency.
let's look at it together. So the battery range on the BZ4X is 252 miles. Your Ionic 5 256, correct?
Yeah.
We've got battery size 71.4 kilowatts versus 77.4. Here's where the big difference is: 8.8 miles added per minute for the BZ4X versus 13 on the Ionic 5. And from a price comparison or a price standpoint, good luck finding a BZ4X that's actually selling at $43,215 versus the $55,000 price point for the limited all-wheel drive.
Yeah, I guess coming from a scientific background, my feelings about the BZ4X being ranked right below the Ioniq 5 should not matter because it's the data that matters. So is it a bit surprising? I mean, I've known that the Ioniq 5's efficiency was not the best since I purchased it. That's another reason why I would have gone for the Model Y. It is far more efficient for a crossover shaped vehicle. I just couldn't afford it, especially without the incentives.
What do you make of all the trucks on the list being at the bottom? I mean, the F-150 Lightning Pro's down there, the Rivian truck's down there, the R1T, the Hummer GM's, it's down there. I'd
Yep.
imagine the Chevy Silverado is going to be down there as well. Why is there such a push for electric trucks when they are terribly, terribly inefficient?
Because they're still better for the environment than just a gas truck or diesel truck that gets between 10 miles per gallon and 20 miles per gallon. Yeah, electric trucks are working, they have physics working against them when it comes to aerodynamics and drag. So it does not surprise me at all that an electric truck requires a much larger battery pack to go the same number of miles. That's just physics. But we got to think about this. So we've got a lot of diesel trucks out there. It's not just about planet warming emissions. It's also about pollutants that can cause asthma and things like that, especially the nitrous oxides. When we think about it from that perspective, I think that's why there's a big push for electric trucks, not to mention the cost savings. You can save a lot of money on fuel if you just go for an EV.
Yeah, no, you're 100% right. Hey, can I toss one thing at you that I find interesting that I know we didn't prep for at all?
Go for it.
You are such a good person. All right, I'm going to pull it up on my screen. Obviously, we've had all the Q2 automaker sales numbers come out. Justin, one thing that really surprised me, Chrysler sales for the quarter were up 95.4% year over year. So last year, Chrysler sold about 19,000 units versus this year they sold nearly 37,000 units. Obviously, Chrysler has come out and said we're moving to all EV soon. What is going on at Chrysler? And do you actually think we'll be looking at this Bloomberg green rating list? And you know what? Chrysler, highly efficient, maybe a relatively affordable price point. Chrysler's kind of killing it right now. I was surprised by that, especially amidst their push to EV.
Yeah, well, they're killing it right now, but they've got 0 EVs on the market. I mean, the Chrysler Airflow concept sure got my attention. I think it's awesome, but Chrysler's overwhelming performance in this past quarter has nothing to do with EVs. It honestly doesn't. It probably has more to do with their ability to produce vehicles. Maybe they got a nice, big, healthy shipment of chips in the mail. I don't know. But
Yeah, but I wonder if it'll influence their thinking at all at Stellantis to be like, wait,
oh,
people want our
yeah.
ICE cars, let's not do it. Or maybe let's double down and Chrysler's going to be the new brand that's going to really allow us to compete mass market. I found it fascinating that their sales were up 100% while all the other segments of vehicles they have are down. And if I'm not mistaken, are there other, I mean, did Dodge come out and say, hey, we're going to go, or Ram come out and say, hey, we're going to go fully electric? I think Chrysler with the Airflow is the only one that said we're going fully electric, but maybe I'm off on that.
Yeah, Dodge and Ram, they're very careful to make sure that they don't say fully electric. But I know that in August, we're going to learn new details about the Ram 1500 electric truck version. So looking forward to that. But no, they know who their audience is, and they're being careful to not overpromise their electrification.
I can't wait to get my Scat Pack, Hell Track, Catback, all with an EV.
Yes, it's going to be interesting.
Could be the future. Definitely could be the future. All right, Justin, what do you say? We come back on Friday?
Yeah, we should have more numbers on Friday to talk about. Yeah, I'm going to run some numbers and share the analysis with everyone.
Yeah. Sounds good to me, Justin. Well, thanks for running through this here. I think that the moral of the story is Tesla's probably going to maintain their market share, but who knows? again, we don't get paid nearly as much as I'm sure John Murphy does over at Bank of America Merrill Lynch. But I like where our heads are at instead of his.
Yeah, and you reminded me, Zach. Friday, we're
Hmm.
gonna have Space, aka Mario from the YAA community. He is going to be with us on Friday talking about the best EV deals out there, whether you're looking to buy or lease. I know it's hard to find a deal, but Space is doing the research and he's gonna let us know what he's found. So Friday we'll be talking to Mario. Really looking forward to that. And then Saturday, we should have
Ooh.
Tesla's regional service technician on the show. I got to talk to the team about getting that set up for Saturday. Want to get a prime time show in. So if you want to see what an actual Tesla technician has to say about the network, the growth of the network, and where it's headed from here, we'll even talk to him about what would happen if Tesla had to share their network with other EVs. All that and more will be discussed on Saturday.
Can't wait, Justin. Good job. Good job booking someone. That's awesome.
Looking forward to it. Early afternoon, probably 1 p.m. Eastern. I'll get you guys some details soon.
Awesome, Justin. All right, if you want to join me again over on the Rain Zach channel in about 30 minutes, Justin, thanks for your time and see you all soon.
See you. Thank you.